You know, the number one reason people quit has nothing to do with their job. Do you know what it is? Think about it. It's poor management. Now, in this video, we'll be highlighting anxiety in the workplace and how poor management is the biggest factor. Hi there, I'm Steven, and I teach people and corporations about stress in the workplace. You know, far too often, people are in management positions who just simply should not be there. When I go into a corporation and I do a culture audit, where I go in and literally audit the culture of the company, I spend a few days just walking around the company and talking to employees and kind of seeing how things work and taking an audit of the culture that they've created. And I always find out inevitably, every single time, that the problem, the root cause of the problem, is usually from the top down. You're always going to have that person knocking on your door that's going to want this or is going to want that, or they don't want to do their work and they're trying to look for someone that they can pawn their work off on. All of that kind of stuff is going to be typical across the board, any company you work in. That's going to be everywhere. And so when you have that person in place at the top that does not have the skill set to be there, what you find is that it's kind of like trickle-down economics, which never works. It doesn't work in the economy, and it doesn't work in an office environment either. And so when you have that person in place up above and their toxicity starts to trickle down, you create an unhappy culture. Now, inside of that culture, people begin to start to experience their own little traumas. And those traumas at some point will solidify and become one trauma that now the company is forced to deal with, when the problem was as easy as giving that person at the top training to be able to deal with the culture that they themselves have created. So, have you ever experienced this in a company that you have worked for? I certainly have. Let me ask you this. Have you ever left a company because of an idiot at the top? To be able to manage a boss who is giving you this extreme anxiety in the workplace, you need to develop conflict resolution skills. When you encounter a toxic boss like this, there's a way that you can deal with them in a way that doesn't alert them to their own toxicity. Because if you open that can of worms, they're going to become defensive and they might even make you the enemy. So you don't want them to know that you're on to them. What you want to do is to develop the skills to be able to manage their toxicity in a way that doesn't affect your job performance. Now, if you want someone to just go away, stare at the center of their forehead right here. Now, they don't know that you're not looking into their eyes, but on this subliminal internal level, your brain begins to pick it up and it makes them feel uncomfortable, and they will simply go away after a few minutes because they don't know why you're making them feel uncomfortable. But they will have this feeling in their body like they don't know if you believe them or not. And that's kind of icky to them. We have all experienced a bad boss at some point in our lives, and it's the number one reason that people leave their jobs. You know, I had a boss one time that was so evil that even his own family hated him. But here's an interesting fact. Believe it or not, it's not the money that keeps people at their jobs. It's people in that toxic situation that make them quit. What do you do as an employee who may not have the resources, or maybe you don't even want to leave your job when you're in that situation, but you're dealing with all of this anxiety from your bad boss? I've been in that situation myself, and it's horrible. So you use conflict resolution skills with your boss. You first go and have a sit down with your boss, but never alone. You always have someone there in addition to your boss, and you sit down and you have what essentially is a very uncomfortable conversation, but it needs to be had. But there is a way to have it so it's not confrontational, and that's the key. There's a series of steps that I can teach you to have that conversation in a way that produces the desired outcome that you are looking for. And so the whole purpose of the meeting is for you to put your boss on notice that you're making me feel uncomfortable, and that's not okay or acceptable to me. And so then you go through a process of speaking, and then you allow them to speak, and then you come to a mutual understanding of how you're going to move forward. And at that point, if it continues to happen, it's time to escalate and go to the next level. Now, how can these conflict resolution skills help with anxiety in the workplace? Well, for one, it puts your boss on notice. Now, that might sound dangerous, but listen up. It sends a very clear message that says, I can't treat this person that way. You might not realize this, but we teach people how to treat us. You are literally training people with every single interaction what is acceptable behavior and what is not. You're teaching the other person what they can get away with and what you're willing to accept literally every time you get together. So when you learn to stand on your own 2 feet and you say, this makes me feel uncomfortable and I'm not okay with this, that is standing your ground and protecting yourself, and you have that right. And if they can't find respect out of that conversation, they never will, and you're talking to someone who isn't going to listen because they feel more superior to you. These people are toxic, and they want you to bow to them. You're not going to have a conversation in a demeaning way, even if they try to bait you into it. Just remain unfazed. Relax. You're just simply going to have a factual and very professional conversation, and you're going to say some things that are making you feel uncomfortable. And these behaviors are not acceptable to me. So we need to find a way to move forward. Now, what this does is it puts the ball in his or her court. And all you're really saying is that this is what's making me feel uncomfortable and I don't feel like it's acceptable. And what are you going to do about it so that we can move forward in a way that creates productivity for the company? It gives you control over your own life when you put yourself in this situation. Let me be clear. I'm not saying that every person should be made to feel 100% comfortable all the time at work. That's just not realistic. And that's not the way the world works. To live, work, and interact with other humans means discomfort and potentially stressful situations from time to time. That's just life. But it's not what this is about on a daily basis. When unhealthy levels of anxiety arise at work, we must determine what the cause is and decide what needs to be addressed or done. If you have found this helpful, hit the like button and subscribe. Take care of yourself and each other, and I'll see you in the next video.